Hello and welcome to the People of Greenville podcast. I'm your host, Eric Mitchell, and I'm talking to all the cool and interesting people in Greenville one at a time. And today I have an added element of video. How about that? I haven't done that before. I mean, coming out of a TV background, and I haven't done video, but my guest today, Kamber Parker, has inspired me because she has a podcast. Wait, who's the guest here? She has a podcast and has a great video element. So I thought, maybe I would add it in. So today, welcome Kamber Parker. She is are you CEO? What is your title?
Yeah, I'm founder and CEO of the YoPro Know.
The YoPro Know. And all right, for our guests, you're how old?
I'm 27.
That's great. Founder and CEO at 27 years old, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, so if this doesn't give you inspiration for what millennials are capable of in America today and give you new inspiration, right? I'm a fan of millennials from the real estate world because they love data. Anyway, so Kamber has founded this company, the YoPro Know, and tell us what that is.
Yeah. Before I jump into that, I'll say one thing just because you mentioned the video portion, and I'm very honored that you felt inspired to jump into this today. We just did you mentioned data, and I'll throw out a number. We learned recently that Gen Z, there's about 88% of them are consuming video content, right, on YouTube. And it's just data is pointing us to video. So video is so important. You get so much more engagement really across all generations. But of course, we're looking at the YoPro Know with the young professional generation. So that's why I have that number. But I had to share that to get things started. But the YoPro Know, jumping back to your question, is a consulting group. We help companies attract and retain top young professional talent. So you mentioned my age. Yes, I am 27, but I've been spending the last 5.5 years interviewing thousands of young professionals and sharing their personal stories. So from their struggles to their successes in the modern workplace, we use those data points and we help companies create strategies to better attract and retain talent. So I might be young, but I've got a lot of backing to help me.
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, it's been my experience that kind of thing doesn't happen by accident. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of talent. And congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So let's go back way before you started your company. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What was home life like for Kamber as a young kid and growing up?
Yeah, so I am from Baltimore, Maryland, a little outside of Baltimore, so not necessarily the city, but I lived there my whole life. And I found Furman University, which is how I got down here. But growing up, I was an athlete. I played soccer. I played lacrosse. Coming from Maryland, that is like the mecca of lacrosse.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate to grow up in a family where I have a younger brother. My parents supported us in every way. And I definitely accredit a lot of my work ethic and, starting a business, certainly to my parents and a lot of the things that I was involved in as a kid. So I am very lucky that I grew up the way that I did. But my mom is actually an entrepreneur herself. She owns a marketing consulting group. And so certainly saw her entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that definitely played a part. But I will say I did not think I would be an entrepreneur and a founder of a consulting group. And so it's funny how things kind of work out, but that's how I grew up. And then I got down south because of Furman University.
Yeah. And did you play lacrosse at Furman?
I didn't. So I actually played.
Is there women's?
There is,
lacrosse?
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. There is only a women's lacrosse team right now. There's not a men's lacrosse team.
Interesting.
And so I really loved lacrosse, but I liked soccer more. So I was more of a soccer girl. And then I came to Furman and it's D1. And I knew that D1 was not the route for me, but I did consider playing D3 soccer at one point. And so my journey could have been really different if I didn't go to Furman. So I'm glad we probably would not be on this podcast if that were the case, because Furman is ultimately what led me to Greenville.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and Furman is doing so many great things for Greenville, and not just because students come here and they fall in love with the town, but one of the things I'm sure you're familiar with, the Hill Institute. And
Absolutely.
the things they're doing at the Hill Institute to help foster entrepreneurism, and particularly with young people, is phenomenal.
I'm so grateful for them. They actually, so the Institute was not there when I was a student. So I graduated in 2017, and I think they got it in 2018.
Yeah.
So I really missed it. But that first year out, once I started, my business actually started as a blog. That was year one. And I knew that I wanted it to be something. And so after that first year, I remember hearing about the Institute. And so I checked it out, and they offered me free consulting just as an alumni. And so, as an alumna. And so it was really, I don't know a lot of other schools that are doing that. And so I felt very connected to Furman. And that's why I give back to Furman in more ways than, just financially and time. I really try to do as much as I can because it has given so much to me.
Yeah, sure. I mean, what a great institution. What a great thing for Greenville. And I'm thrilled at what they've done to help not just the students, but also help Greenville and entrepreneurism and the Next Center and everybody that's involved. So,
and I'm also involved in the Next Center too. Sorry.
Are you really? Well,
yes.
Of course you are. Yeah.
I've gotten very plugged in, and I love the work that they're doing. I'm part of a mentoring program. So I have 3 mentors who help me, just kind of hold me accountable, right? Like I'm my own boss. And so it's nice to have some people to hold me accountable, and all of them are very, tenured and very experienced. Some of them have started and exited companies that they founded. And so it's really great having that exposure at such a young age and to learn from them and kind of see, just have somebody to hold me accountable, which is very important, I think, for any entrepreneur.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm going to go down a different rabbit hole now. I mean, I was I was involved in a startup a few years ago, and we got connected with some Next guys and went through a little bit of mentoring, went through a pitch process. And I think what I learned most is that these people just think on a different level than I do. I mean, they do. And so my goal was to soak up every little bit I could. I mean, I own another little business, an ice vending business, and, real estate's kind of entrepreneurial. And I was just so fascinated with how many great leaders and highly intelligent, smart people there are in Greenville.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, this ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, is just getting started in Greenville. I think there's so much more that we can do, and there's so many people moving to Greenville. So think of how many more entrepreneurs there can be in 10, 15 years. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really is. Okay. So now back to you, back to Kamber. All right. So you graduated Furman, and then what? You don't just start a business out of college.
Correct. My dad is a 35-year insurance guy. And so I decided to venture into the world of insurance right after I graduated. So I moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I worked for a corporate insurance company. It was, Fortune 250, just very, very, very big company. And it was not the right fit for me. And so in that first year out of school, when I realized this, I was just pretty miserable. It was a bad first year out of school. And I started talking to people, and I realized that I was not the only one. Most people were hating their first jobs. And I didn't think that was necessarily right. I think that most jobs, if they're your first job, are not the end game. But what if people could do a better job engaging young professionals? And so that was how my company was born. About 6 to 9 months into that job, I realized that was not my forever place. And I needed a little bit of an outlet to kind of channel some of that disappointment, because I really imagined kind of climbing the corporate ladder. That was what I thought was the right thing to do in my career. And I was pretty disappointed in myself that I couldn't seem to get there. And so that's how the YoPro Know blog started. I decided to interview one person at a time, and each person connected me to the next person, and they had to be in a different state, and they had to be in a different industry. And so I was doing that simultaneously with trying to figure out my next step. So I stayed at that company for a year, and about 9 months in, I decided I needed to look somewhere else. And so that's what brought me back to Greenville. And I spent the next 4.5 years working as a development director at a small nonprofit that I had interned for in college. So I moved back to Greenville and worked for the Parkinson Society. So I have a personal connection to Parkinson's. And I spent my evenings fundraising and some weekends and kind of odd hours, because that's what you do in fundraising.
What you do.
And in the downtime, I built up this business. So that was pre-YoPro Know, but YoPro Know has really been a part of my professional career for as long as I've really been a professional, minus that first job. And so it's a part of who I am. And I think a lot of people, when they think of me, they think of YoPro and vice versa. So I think it's a little bit synonymous with the brand now.
Sure. Well, yeah, you become your own brand for sure. I totally agree with that. But all right, so I can't help but ask, so what was it that prompted you to start the blog in the first place? I mean, was it out of frustration? Was it out of you saw that there was a need in the corporate world, or a combination of things? Because you don't just go, oh, I'm going to start a blog about this.
Right. And that's kind of where I was just saying, like, it was a part of me feeling just disappointed that I wasn't able to see myself at this job long term. I knew that I couldn't be the only person feeling this way, which is why I started talking to people just organically. And once I realized that it wasn't just me, I thought that I had something there. And I realized that what if that question that I had shared with you, what if companies could do a better job engaging young people from the start? Because we all know people who have a bad first job, but then they have a second bad job and a third bad job. I have a lot of peers that just still have not found that thing, and that's okay, but it's not just on them. Companies can be doing a better job of engaging them. And why it's so important is because if you don't engage them now, these are the future leaders of our workforce. And so you have to adapt to the changing times and learn how to engage them in the way that this generation needs to be.
They need to be engaged, right? Yeah.
So that's why I started the blog, was because I felt there was a gap. It was also my personal experience, and I needed that creative outlet. So it was really 3 different reasons that I started it, and then it just evolved into thousands of people. Yeah.
Did you write or journal or blog as you were growing up, or was this something that you started college time?
I went to summer camp, and so I wrote a lot of letters. I had a journal, and so I'm a big writer for sure. But I wanted to be, my kind of dream job growing up was to be a news anchor, and so part of the podcast that I had and the interviews made me feel like I was getting a little bit of that type of anchor-esque job in a way. And so it's kind of funny how that turns out. So I definitely think that was a part of what ended up transcribing today, but it's just funny how it worked. I mean, we were talking, earlier about your podcast and some of the early days. I mean, I was literally like, I had my recorder on my phone while I was on the phone with somebody from Seattle, and I would literally transcribe the audio after. And I did that like really early on. Obviously I would never do that today, but that's when we transitioned. That's when we transitioned to writing blog posts separately. So I had young professionals writing about experiences that they had, and then we had a podcast where we would interview them, and we have a new kind of version of that today, just so we can get more volume of interviews. That way we can collect more data to share with companies.
Yeah, it's all about the data. All right, so speaking of data, I mean, so you're connecting younger folks with corporate needs. There's got to be a process on each side, and how do you make that marriage work?
Mm-hmm. So we share data with companies on what young professionals are not only looking for, but what they really need to be successful. And we actually have, it's very timely. We're doing this podcast. We have a report coming out this month, and it is on the current state of young professionals. We interviewed over 1,000 young professionals in the past year for this specific report. And we talk about the 5 factors that influence them to stay and leave a company. And so we dive in, you'll look at it and it's not that different from what your generation maybe would have looked at when staying or leaving. But, well, I'm just saying, I don't think you're a millennial.
I could be your dad, yes.
Yeah,
you're not much older than my kid.
But I'm saying you're not a millennial. And that's good because you're an experienced professional.
Yes.
But how do they change, right? So communication is different between Gen X and Gen Z. It's just different. And so we help companies by looking at the data. We help create strategies for them to better engage. So that can look a number of ways. Whenever we work with any client, we always do an assessment when we go in, and we use the data that we have to basically figure out what does their onboarding look like? What is the likelihood of their onboarding to keep a young professional or to lose them? And then if there's problems with their onboarding or their onboarding system or their recruiting, we'll go through and actually just shift everything around and help them
from
just
the
get ready
onset,
for this next generation.
From the onset, the beginning, onboarding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
extremely important.
Interesting. That's fascinating. And so you're just connecting the dots.
We help connect the dots, but we actually do the doing if they need us to. So I have a team of 8 people, and we have a full team that's ready to help if they would like us to implement the strategy that we share with them. But what's really important to mention is that we don't come in and just say, you need to do this, this, and this, because young professionals want it, so therefore they should have it. We really look at being that bridge in the middle. So we are not coming in and saying, you have to do this, and young professionals get off scot-free. Like, that's not how we operate.
Right.
We are trying to educate all generations on how to work better together. So we do a lot of workshops and trainings. That's a big part of why I have a team to kind of handle the day-to-day. I get to go and do speaking and workshops. The most popular one that we offer is intergenerational communication. And so we go through myths that we all think of certain generations, because let's face it, they're there. And my favorite question to ask is, what do you think about young professionals? And usually people in the audience who are part of the experienced generation, so experienced professionals, that's 40 plus, they always say more negative things. There's nothing positive that comes from that, right? And so I always say, all right, you guys just told me what you think. How many of you have thought that going into a meeting with somebody that it might be Gen Z? And most people raise their hand because there's just those preconceived notions. Sure. So we try to drop those down, and we try to help people pause before communicating with different generations, because usually if you just remember why they do things because of how they grew up, it makes a huge difference when you're communicating with them. And so we try to teach young professionals how to communicate with experienced professionals as well, and how they can engage with them. So we really focus on kind of assessing the pain points first, and then we'll create a strategy. So it really looks different because all companies are individualized.
All are individualized. That is true. And so you're not necessarily going and finding candidates, though.
Nope.
At all.
It's
a matter of it's a matter of helping the companies figure out how to better attract the candidates and retain.
Yeah. Attract and source. We create strategies. So again, we're not a recruiter. When we say we help them attract and retain, we help them create best practices to attract and retain.
Right. Starting
with social media. Young professionals are all on social media. So why should your company not be on social media? And we help them create strategies that can basically boost their engagement on different social media channels. And so again, backing up, we start every engagement with an audit. So I might go in, and you might have a wonderful social media presence, which is great because you can start to build your brand among young professionals. But you might have a terrible onboarding process. And so that's why we look at both the HR side and we look at the marketing side, and then we sandwich them, and we help basically stop those two parts of the business from being silos, which is typically what most companies operate with. We're starting to see a lot more HR and marketing teams collaborate, but that's the secret ingredient to attracting and retaining young talent.
Yeah. So, I asked that question a minute ago for a reason. Do you think is recruiting a natural extension of what you're doing now? Is that a way to expand your business, grow your business, or are you good, maintaining where you are?
No, I'm definitely not okay maintaining where we are, because we're always growing, and there's a reason that we have not moved into the recruiting realm. I get a lot of, just because of the space that I'm in and the network that I've built, I get a lot of companies who say, do you know anyone who's hiring or who's looking for jobs? And I have a lot of young people that will come to me and say, hey, I just lost my job, or hey, I'm not interested in this anymore. Do you know of anything? And so I could charge for that, but I'd rather partner with people that I really respect and have bigger capacity to help. And so that's what I do. I will connect candidates with recruiters and vice versa. And as far as where we're going next, we're scaling. We've scaled already. We went from 2 employees to 8 in 6 months. And so we've really scaled just from our consulting practices, but also a lot of that work that I mentioned that we are doing monthly, like once a client, if they want us to help them implement strategies that we recommended, we have a team that will be assigned to those clients. And so we're trying to figure out how can we digitize this process. And so that's a lot of what Next is helping me with. And, that's not 10 years down the road. That's definitely in the next few years. And we're really stepping into the webinar side of the house and offering some, easy touch points for people to get involved with us that doesn't involve workshops and speaking and consulting. So we've got a lot on the radar, even for the last 6 months of the year.
That's incredible. I'm just still marveling at what you've accomplished in 4 years total, maybe, or so.
Well, yeah, the business, we started the blog in 2018. So it's, been about 5 years. So it's pretty cool. Like I said, it's taken up majority of my young professional career. And so I'm just excited to see where it goes. It's the time to talk about millennials and Gen Z. And again, I think our world is just going to be in bad shape, frankly, if we don't all get on the same page about developing the next level of leadership, particularly when so many baby boomers and Gen Xers are exiting the workforce. There's going to be a gap in leadership. And so we have to stop the young professionals from job hopping, and also from this lack of leadership that just has come from the pandemic and work from home. And so companies need to figure out what to do. So that's why we exist. There's certainly a need. Yeah,
definitely. It's interesting, job hopping. Gone are the days where somebody works for the same company for 30 years, right? My wife, 2 years ago, retired from 30 years of teaching. Now, different thing, but, I know a lot of teachers that 5 years of teaching, they were done. Now they're real estate agents or something else, or nurses. They go back to school and get their nursing degree because that's kind of what their heart is. They're nurturers, and they love on people, and that's what they do, and they're good at it. So,
it's true. It's funny you say that, because I typically tell people that before they sign on the dotted line to work with us. I'm not here to help keep talent for 30 years. I say that exact number. But what we are able to do is help you get from 1 year, right, before they leave after a year. What if we can get them to stay for 3 to 5 years? And then what kind of impact can that have on your business? It's going to have much more of a financial impact, because if you invest in them correctly, they're going to be able to give back financially. They're going to create increased productivity. There's going to be a better culture. And then if they do leave, which there is still a chance that they will leave, because there just might be a different opportunity, they might have to move. If they do that, there is still going to be this opportunity for them to come back around. There's always boomerang employees, and it's just a great recruiting tool. If they have a positive exit, it's going to be positive recruiting for you down the road. So there's never a bad time to invest in your talent. Yeah. And so that's what I'll say there. The days are absolutely long gone, but it doesn't mean that's the end of the road for your business.
Yeah. You mentioned culture. What is the most recurring culture situation that you see in corporate world today that is negative for millennials or younger folks, and by contrast, positive?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the negative and we can end on the positive. So young professionals are, and again, this is all in our report that's coming out this month, so it's very fresh on my mind. The most negative types of cultures are the ones where there's really, really unclear expectations, really poor communication, micromanagement. Young people they want there to be this trust. And so if you are told that you can work hybrid and there's no guidelines on when you should be in the office, but then you don't show up one day and your boss calls you and says, "Where are you?" You have to, there has to be clear expectations from the start. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to lose them. And so I would say that's one piece. The second piece is Gen Z in particular is the most diverse generation in U.S. history. You have to have some inclusivity in your job. Now, I'm not saying that to say you have to have a certain X number of, people have to be in a minority. No, just have inclusive practices, have different people at the table with different, diverse thoughts. And I mean, we have direct quotes from young professionals who are from all different backgrounds saying this because it's how they grew up. And so they're looking for that. So if you don't have that, they're going to perceive that as negative. And then the last piece is company leaders that think mental health is not a real problem is absolutely contributing to a negative culture. Young professionals today they know a lot of people, they might have it themselves. They experience this mental health just issue that we're seeing as a country. And if companies are not willing to align with well-being and health over work, that's going to not align with most young professionals' views. Yeah. So those are a few. There's honestly, culture is such a big section that we could talk about. I mean, we could have an entire podcast about that. And the last one, I should have mentioned this first, to be honest. I'm sorry, it failed my mind. But flexibility is a huge piece as well. So kind of goes back to the micromanagement. If you're able to offer some flexibility, it doesn't mean you have to have them in the office 100% of the time or being at home 100% of the time, but what can you work out that's some type of hybrid? Because that's what most young professionals are looking for today. Like a drastic number. There's over, I think 68% are looking for some type of hybrid. And then the other 32 are kind of a mix between at home 100% and remote. So there's a lot of factors that can play into culture, which is why as a company, it has to be top priority. But communication is a big piece of that. So positive things, obviously the opposite of everything we just talked about. I kind of answered some of the positives, but I would say communication, when it's good, it is really good. And you can see results from that in your retention. And I tell clients, if you can do 5 things really, really well, if you can communicate well, set expectations, have a strong culture, offer professional development, so room to grow, and then offer good onboarding and education, that is going to match up to a company that can pay somebody more because they're loyal, they're bought in, and they're engaged. And so that's really, really hard to do those 5 things. So that's not an easy task, but it is possible to keep talent if you do those things really well.
Yeah, simple, but not easy.
Right.
I mean, it should be simple, right?
Absolutely, it should
Yeah.
be, but it's really, I mean, I'm not telling you anything that's rocket science, right? So
Right.
it's just a matter of having the right strategies in place, and that changes. Like it will change 20 years from now. And
Yeah.
so you have to just always be evolving as a company.
Adapt or perish.
Exactly.
That's the quote. Yeah. Wow. All right. So what's next for Kamber? Where do you go from here? You've grown a little business. You're doing well. What's next?
Great question. I mentioned a little bit kind of what's on the radar for the next year or two, but personally, what I find the most joy in right now as a person, I love speaking. I love engaging with people, educating, spreading the awareness about everything we've talked about today. And so speaking has become a really big part of building our brand. And so I see a lot of that in the future. I've been getting a lot of advice to write a book to go along with the speaking. And I mean, it wouldn't be tough as far as getting the actual content because we already have that. And so I think that's something I definitely want to put on my radar. But personally, I really would love to, I'm getting married this year. And so
congratulations.
Very exciting. Thank you. So, starting a business in its first full year, because I took it full time exactly a year ago. And also planning a wedding has been pretty entertaining, but I want to enjoy that process. Yeah. And just, remember that I have to take care of myself too, because I have to practice what I preach, and young people care about life and not just, they like life over work. And so I can't always be work. I have to take care of myself.
Life over work.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it took me a while to figure that out. I'm glad I did when I did. And yeah, hallelujah. Here we are. Congratulations on getting married. When's the date? Can you share?
December 2nd.
Oh, that's so awesome. It'll be here before you know it. And
I know.
My wife and I just celebrated 30 years, and it's it's so unbelievable. Thank you. I should probably edit this out. It doesn't matter.
No, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's so much fun. We have 24-year-old twins, and every little phase of the last 30 years has been so much fun. And now, empty nesting is so much fun. And it was just, it was 3 weeks ago when we got married. That's what it feels like. It's just the acceleration of time is, thank you. The acceleration of time is an amazing thing. And, wow. Yeah, here we are.
That's really amazing.
Well, thank you. So you're a reader, it sounds like. What are you reading right now?
Oh, man. I'm reading Build for Tomorrow. I actually have it right out in front of me. So I'm reading 2 books. Actually, no, you know what? I like that one a lot, but let me show you this one because it's very applicable. Z Economy.
Okay.
So that is, it's how Gen Z will change the future of business and what to do about it. So great book. And then for fun, I'm reading a little kind of rom-com / dramatic drama, and it's called Hotel Nantucket. So for fun.
Is this the one you take to the beach with you to read? I'm just
Sometimes you can't read, personal development books all day long. So I
don't know. That's kind of what I've been reading. A lot of personal development.
Are you reading anything good right now?
So there was one recommended by a friend recently called Green Light Selling, and I'm reading that. It's about communication. It's about the words we use, and about connecting with people. I just got finished reading Ninja Selling by Larry Kendall, and so our firm has done a ninja installation here. So and the great thing is people have this concept that being a ninja is about karate chopping and samurai swords, and that's not it. It's about serving people and it being, not top secret, but serving and loving people in authenticity is what it is. But about to start the Secret of the Millionaire Mindset. I've got that one on queued up and ready to go. So we'll see. I've been reading a lot of mental mindset kind of things recently. I just read a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And what a great way to start your day with your inner thoughts and beginning with gratitude and practicing, positive things that we say to ourselves all the time.
It's
Now,
really
I've been accused of having, rose-colored glasses all the time. But but I'm happy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's impactful. And I started doing a gratitude journal 2 years ago, and it has made a huge difference for me. And I actually, at the end of every day, or like as the day goes on, I will highlight good things that happen. And I write it in this is probably going to surprise people, but I am a paper planner girl. So I love my paper planner, and I jot some things down, and that has helped because mindset is everything. I'm a yogi. I do yoga, and it just changes how you operate. And so like there are really stressful days of being a business owner, just like, I mean, in real estate, like you said before, it's very entrepreneurial. There's hard days. So if you don't have your mindset, or don't know, it's not trained to reframe, that can be just really hard to get back from. So yeah. I hear you. And what was that book that you said?
Which one? What to say when you talk to yourself?
Yeah. What to say when you talk. I'll have to write that down.
What to say when you talk to yourself. It's a quick read. It's a brilliant book, and absolutely will, if you adopt, the methodology, then and buy into how impactful mindset can be. And it's amazing. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and I believe there is to a person this positivity that happens, and it stems from self-talk. Mm-hmm. When you look at the most professional athletes, and people talk about, they've got all the talent and it's God given and nobody could ever. You know what? Go tell that to that person, and then go watch the shortstop for the Atlanta Braves take 1,000 ground balls every day. Right. So I mean, there's so much, and they have to constantly talk to themselves about being who they are. So anyway, so I could go on and on.
I know. Well, I'm glad. I like the book question. That's a good question.
Yeah. All right. So tell me this before we go. What is the greatest piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Oh, man. There's so many really good pieces of advice. Networking. Oh, man. I'm trying to think of a good topic to kind of go into. But I would say one it's around mindset. You can't let the no's stop you. And the no's definitely paralyzed me early on. I don't think that much has changed. I mean, a lot has changed, but as far as, you still get no's, you still get ghosts. I mean, that's just what happens in business. And I have just learned to react to it differently. And because all of our marketing efforts have grown, we're in a different place than we were a year ago or 3 years ago. But I would say, learning how to react to the no's is pretty impactful for me. And then another mindset piece of advice is just taking care of myself. It's many people have told me how important it is, but they say that they realized it, too late in life. And so I don't want to be 20 years from now looking back and regretting some of the things that I chose to do. And so that is why I'm really specific and strategic about how I plan my days, and mentally, physically being well is really important to me. And that's because of a lot of advice I've been given.
That's awesome. All right. So then what is a piece of advice that you would give to a young entrepreneur or someone just getting out of school?
Mm-hmm. Definitely ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Ooh. I think I've gotten where I am because I've leaned on a lot of experienced professionals who have given so much time to me. I mean, I was having coffee this morning with somebody who gives me a lot more time than I feel like they should even, but it's because they want to give back. They did that for them, and they're paying it forward. And so just don't be afraid. I think that's what holds a lot of young professionals back. So don't be afraid. And then if you're an experienced professional listening and you maybe haven't given as much time to young professionals, I just encourage you to do that, because who knows who they will touch in the future because of you.
Wow. Yeah, that's huge. I agree 100%. I mean, the willingness of so many people to help, to mentor, to encourage. It's incredible that if you surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that are willing to give of themselves and help you along, there's nothing you can't do. Truly.
Exactly. It's really true. I would not be where I am without them.
Yeah. Well, Kamber, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on the podcast and for inspiring me to add an element of video for the People of Greenville podcast. It's been an honor to talk to you. It's, being the father of folks almost your age is a fun thing for me to watch as a dad, and to see others that have succeeded and are doing well in an entrepreneurial world is just so encouraging and inspiring for me. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We've got a lot more to do, so stay tuned.
That's right, girl. You go get it. All right. Well, thanks again for listening to the People of Greenville podcast. I'm your host, Eric Mitchell, and I'm talking to all the cool and interesting people in Greenville one at a time. See you next time.